Hollywood sold Randolph Scott as the calm hero who never missed his mark. Speak few lines, aim straight, and savvy day by sunset off screen, though heck read 7 hidden stories that paint a far bigger picture. Blue blood, birth, trench war scars, a life-changing golf swing, 2 very different marriages, a 12-year beach bond with Cary Grant, a late career run of raw westerns, and a fortune so huge even his family gasped. By the end you will know how the man horribly smiled on film built the last law. In real life, Randolph Scott arrived on a cold January morning in 1898 while his mother Lucille visited him in rural Orange County, Virginia. These tales sound small, yet they mark time as the lone Scott sibling born away from Charlotte, North Carolina. A quirk his mother liked to repeat. Back in Charlotte, father George Grant Scott had blended careers that rarely met. Textile engineer by day, North Carolina's first certified public accountant by night, had double skill set, taught young Randolph that math and machines material to grace. In greeting their first family house sat near modern-day uptown, a wraparound porch circled pecan trees older than the town's brick streets. By 1907, George moved everyone into a fresh Georgian mansion designed by Louis Hasbury, Charlotte's most prestigious circuit. Marble steps, tall sash windows, and oak-paneled halls became Randolph's stately backdrop. He never knew a night when supper felt unsure at Woodbury Forest. A strict Episcopal boarding school teachers drilled Latin verbs for dawn. Bugle uniforms had to chenier demerits followed. Randolph's height reached 6 feet by 15, so coaches steered him into football line positions, and catching high balls in varsity baseball. Spring weekends meant horse training. Low fences. Summer break returned him to private pools where he practiced atomed laps. Every achievement reinforced an inner idea: stand straight, move forward, say little, win more. Even drama club fit that mold the United Daughters of the Confederacy staged heritage pageants that mixed costume with hymns about honor, playing wounded soldiers and grieving sons. Randolph learned to freeze emotion behind a slight quiver of thought. That single skill, silent grief, became a hallmark decades later when Western scripts gave him 50 words total but demanded weight in every stare. War thundered into his comfortable life. That spring he turned 19 while many wealthy classmates measured safe pathways. Randolph enlisted in the North Carolina National Guard in July 1917. 3 months after America declared war, basic drills at Camp Green toughened him further. Forced march miles, bayonet shouts, and gas mask races. Promotions: quickly corporal by October, sergeant by February 1918. Each stripe proving calculation plus cool. Shipped to France, Scott joined the 2nd Trench Mortar Battalion Company. C mortar crews crouched inside knee-deep dugouts only 6 feet long to men at a field phone, relayed map angles to artillery yards. Bin the line shells screamed overhead mid sucked at boots. 1 math slip, cold drop, friendly fire, short letters, home a mention, pocket testaments opened before a missions. A ritual he kept private forever. Artillery school after the armistice hardened the lessons instead of selling homes. Scott studied at Smyrna, become a 2nd lieutenant. Erotic cavalry courses, leaping ditches on regulation mounts, learned to repair saddle cinches under timer stopwatches, drilled marksmanship on bolt action rifles until the bolt flew like musclemory. By the time he reached Georgiatic in 1919, campus sports felt simple by comparison, yet an earlier back injury rifler dreams of All-America status. Deed splints and hot compress transferred to Ung's textile engineering program echoed his father's path, but chalk, dust, and loom theory lacked adrenaline. He tried office liffey at Grant Textile, accounting, auditing yardage sheets, balancing payroll. He mastered it fast, and monotony pressed heavier than trench roofs and letters to a cousin he called the work steady. But small, he craved a bigger gamble. That gamble soon appeared on manicured grass beneath the California sun. Fall 1929, Los Angeles country club. Randolph, now 31, visited a college friend in California. The friend invited him to feel for some Hollywood faces often won clubs there, but Scott focused on grip and wind on the 5th tee. A tall reclusive partner studied him. Howard Hughes, oil air turned film producer of Hughes, watched the Virginia drive a low draw 240 yards down fairway, then listened to his gentle Carolina thanks during the walk to the green. Hughes spurred him with questions. Military sports ever acted? Randolph admitted he once helped the United Daughters of the Confederacy stage plays by the clubhouses, offered a test 1 background role in the far call, the uncredited dapper unpaid scale, but the experience hooked him. Soundstage, catwalks, Fresno lights, and men hollering, quiet rolling felt like action free of bullets. Realizing raw looks were not enough, Scott paid enrollment at Pasadena Community Playhouse classes, ran day and night projection fencing choreograph and attic drills that shaved his already mild draw to a soft mid-Atlantic EC director's loved opportunity. Number 2 arrived when Paramount asked if Annie O'Necold, coach Gary Cooper's Virginia accent for the Virginia 1929 studio bosses, heard of the tall Southerner. In Playhouse workshops, Scott drilled vowels with Cooper between takes, adding yalil without cartoon twang. Cooper thanked him publicly. Magazines noted the unknown coach's screen presence. Extra work turned to bit player, then to supporting roles opposite big names Nancy Carroll and Cary Grant in Hot Saturday 193. Hughes's single tee shot had Blossom Dinto, a career path many actors chased for years without catching. Marion Dupont Somerville owned Montpelier 55-room state once belonging to President James Madison. She bred champion steeplechasers Ford of tweed riding coats and culled outline bloodlines 8 generations up. Scott married her quietly in Carlottisville's Christ Episcopal Church March 23, 1936. Only family attended. Newspapers learned months later. Post-honeymoon, each retreated. Marion oversaw stables in Virginia. Randolph's 3 picture deals in California. Built him a basement gym, but discovered his height required a floor pit. Letters replaced dinners. By 1939, they separated. No property fight, no tabloid sauce. Distance accepted. Marion kept his surname until her 1983 death, quietly ignoring their courteous split a year before that separation. Scott moved into a Spanish-style duplex on 2177 West Live Oak Drive with Cary Grant, who he befriended on Hot Saturday. Warner Publicity sees The Bachelor. Hal Angle photographers stage shots. The pair grilling steaks, golfing at Bear, flexing barbells on the beach. Magazine readers giggled, fan clubs speculated, and gossip columnist Hedda Hopper fired coy Eleanors. Through all chatter, the friendship endured. Grant married actress Virginia Sherrill briefly, divorced, then returned to live with Scott again. 12 years of shared reign is rare for straight Hollywood pals, rarer under studio glare, leading to decades of whispers neither man confirmed or denied. They simply protected a bond thicker than rumors. In 1944, both men married women. Patricia Astelman for Randolph, Barbara Hatonthon, Betsy Drake later for Cary, yet their holiday cards continued until Grant's 1986 passing. Patricia still Minooka graduate and occasional actress, married Randolph in 1944 at Santa Barbara's All Saints by the Sea. The adopted Christopher and Sandra, sheltering them from studio parties. Weekends meant Little League church and dessert picnics. Journalists noted the pair at benefits, yet rarely incident in nightclubs. Friends called their home a museum. That fortress of Queet steadied Scott for 2 more decades. Off saddle dust from 1932 to 1939, Scott hopped among genres: dance, musicals, Roberta, screwball comedies, My Favorite Wife, cameo cuts, swashbucklers, Captain Blood test scenes. Lost audience surveys liked his polite bravery but wanted sharper conflict. Western supplied Thatha's first major ride. The Last of the Mohicans 1936 cast him as Hawkeye, where his real riding and rifle posture shone. 3 years later, Jesse James to $3 million take placed him firmly in studio. Ledger's World War II arrival kept him stateside, backed disability pardoned enlistment, but he joined comedian Joe DeRita to entertain troops, then shot moral films such as Bombardier and Gung Ho. Audiences fused his real-life war record to screen heroics, boosting trust. By 1950, theater owners ranked him 9th in box office men. He repeated the feat through 1953. He was 52 in age when many leading men shifted to father roles. Western's favored lines, carved by Sonskett, turned wrinkles into a storyline. Cinematographers filmed him in Troubadour Light, Monument Valley Red, Cyrodindo. His leathery profile enter producer Joe Brown over coffee at the Brown Derby. They created renowned productions. Rad plus Brown owning negative right changed income, standard salary plus profit share plus creative veto. Their director Bud Boddicker, former bullfighter who loved minimalism. Over 7 pictures, 7 men from now. The Tall Teodosian at sundown. Buchanan rides alone. Westbound ride Lonesome Comanche. Station budget stayed lean. Scripts spare. Moral dilemmas. Sharp critics now cite these as precursors to Sergio Leone's Spaghettigrat and Eastwood's Lone Drifter. Most stars of Scott's era funneled each fresh paycheck into chrome fin Cadillacs, mink stoles, or glass-walled hilltop mansions. Scott, gray ledger in hand, steered straight to the Los Angeles County Recorder's office. Clerks Laernetto recognized the tall, soft-spoken actor pored over plat maps instead off studio gossip pages in 1933, while Pierce scrambled to buy radio ads for the next picture. He paid just $150 an acre for neglected orange groves west of Seova Boulevard. Dirt roads, windmills, and rattlesnakes were the only neighbors, but Scott's warhen patience saw farther than citrus after World War II, when returning GIS triggered a housing boom. Developers carved those groves into Vinay's ranch homes and paid him nearly 40 times his cost for every lot they touched. Even the game he played to relax ended up lining his ledger. Scott loved golf's quiet focus, yet saw opportunity beyond birdies. In 1927, when most courses sat closer to downtown Los Angeles, he and a small circle of bankers bought 200 scrub-covered acres on a Corona Hillside and incorporated Park Ridge Country Club. Locals joked it would never draw members too far, too rocky to hot. Scott countered by planting shade trees, investing in deep well irrigation, and importing a Scottish greenskeeper who understood Bermuda grass. He chaired the finance committee personally at Provingery, locker room tile, and pro shopper chase order. By the early 1940s, the waiting list stretched 18 months. World War II officers stationed at Marchfield began driving down for weekend rounds. They wrote home about views that swept from snow-capped San Gorgonio to Catalina. On a clear day when the club rebranded as Cresta Verde in 1948, Scott negotiated a tiered initiation plan: civilian memberships at $1,250, a junior executive level at $750, and a military discount that won him lifelong allies in the Air Force. Brass annual dues plus 120 rounds a day. Off-green feed traffic produced net income within 4 years equal to the domestic take of an average Republic Pictures Western, about $400,000 tax advantage. Becca's Crestiver operated as a private recreational corporation. Scott's Longview paid again. In the 1950s television boom, he inked a 5-year deal with Keitla to broadcast the Cresta Verde Invitational, one of the first West Coast golf events shot for local sponsorship from a regional beer label and a tire company. Covered production costs, ad revenue split 60/40 in the club's favor. The broadcast drew crowd, spiked concession sales, and lifted property values for miles. By 1962, Crestaverde's retained earnings exceeded $1 million, matching the box office haul of a solid mid-budget war picture. Comparisons put the scale in perspective. Cary Grant, an acknowledged financier himself, reached a comparable net worth only after a decade fronting Fabricologen and investing with oilman A. Ebely Jenkins. Katharine Hepburn, frugalite, never entrepreneurial accumulate, perhaps a quarter of Scott's fortune over 60-year stardom. Journalists remained oblivious because Scott dodged many questions with a slow smile and the line, "I spend what I need and savvy the rest." He pulled up to Premier's in a powder blue Mobile 88 white wall tire, spotless but a far cry from the custom Packards and Cadillacs parked at the curb. Reporters snapped a quick photo, assumed thrift, and turned their flashbulbs toward flashier arrivals. Behind that unassuming grin, however, stood Alan Barron, who read county access reports like scripts, scouted fairway directors, scouted locations, and negotiated acreage deals in the same measured voice he used for on-screen ultimatums. Silence. He believed closed more bargains than boasts, while Pierce counted headlines and awards. Randolph Scott counted dividend checks and water rights clauses and still found time to shoot par most Saturdays. Flush with that windfall, he scouted again, this time east off the Santo Mountains, where only jackrabbits brave the sand. He bought 600 desolate acres outside a dusty outpost called Palm Springs years before Frank Sinatra's first martini splashed at the Racket Club. By the late 1950s, he wassailing slim parcels to hotel syndicatessen golf course builders who turned sagebrush into emerald fairways. Quiet deals like these pushed his personal ledger skyward. By 1965, Forbes circulated a private estimate of $100 million rugly to $180 million today liquid assets, surpassing even studio titan Jack Warner's readily available cash. Scott reinvested profits in safe municipal bonds, then rolled a calculated slachinto. Fledgling aerospace firms supplying guidance systems for NASA breakfast began with black coffee, and the Wall Street Journal margins annotated in red pencil. Sam Peckinpah was only 37 when he stepped on to ride the high country, and he carried a reputation for fighting every studio note that threatened his vision. MGM executives expected a routinely cost. Programmer Peckinpah expected a poetic farewell to the mythic West. Friction started day one. Heavy Springs, no buried Mammoth Lakes, the planned location, so the front office yanked the entire production to Bronson Canyon near Los Angeles. 2 weeks later, Budget cuts erased a climactic river crossing and forced the director to restage it on Dusty Flats dressed with painted backdrops. Crew morale sagged peck and corresponded by rewriting pages at 3 o'clock a. Madding silences, stripping speeches, and demanding truth in every frame. Randolph Scott, now in his mid-60s, shared top billing with lifelong friend Gilm Crea. They played former lawman Gil Westertorm and Steve Judd, hired to escort a miner's goal through outlaw country. Between takes, extras watched Scott eat a plain chicken sandwich while marking his script in red pencil. He scratched out whole lines, leaned toward Peck, and Powant murmured, "Less talk, stronger moment." Younger actors said he treated each pause like loaded chamber music. A raised eyebrow replaced 3 scripted sentences. The final reel delivered dexically that restraint at an isolated mountain farm surrounded by wind-bowed pines. Westerm finally chose loyalty over greed, siding with Judd in a stand-a-fagant vicious brothers. Gunfire cracked through the morning mist. McCree's mortally wounded. Judd slumped against a fence post. Scott's Western knelt, eyes wet, lifted his battered hat and vowed, "I'll see it done right." No swelling score, just distant crows and creaking wood when firster run dailies hit the projection booth. Peckinpah usually caustic wiped his eyes. Cameraman Lucien Ballard whispered, "Never thought I'd see him cry." A week later, MGM brass previewed the cut. One vice president knitted off, another whispered, "Too slow for today's kids." Marketing downgraded it to the bottom half of drive-in double features, shipping battered prints to rural screens. Europe saw something different. Paris critics compared its autumnal mood to Ford's. The searchers filtered through existential doubt. Cade Cinema praised Scott as the steel face of post-class America. Weathered yet unbroken British journals hailed its illogic tone. Domestic receipts stayed modest but reparatory. Cinemas across France and Italy kept it alive for years, planting seeds for Peck and Puzz later cult status. Scott and his wife Patricia arranged a private 16mm screening in Theater Beverly Hills. Then he watched Insolence Rose and called his agent. "That's me right into the sunset. No more picture." A studious dangled TV series leads, comic cameos, and grandfatherly walk-ons. He refused them all, choosing early morning golf at Bear and meticulous portfolio Reeves. His handicap dipped into single digits. His real estate dividends climbed past Wall Street projection time. However, trimmed even iron riders in his 80s. Scott battled congestive heart failure and 2 bouts of pneumonia that left him thin but still erect in posture. Cary Grant, his one-time Malibu housemate, died in November 1986. Scott phoned mutual friends, voice low for months. Later on March 2, 1987, he slipped away in his sleep. Only 25 relatives gathered at Charlotte's Forest Lawn Cemetery. Evangelist Billy Graham read Matthew 59, "Blessed are the peacemakers." President Reagan's telegram called Scott steadfast as any frontier. Oak attorneys open fuel-layered trust funds downtown Los Angeles. Deeds, Palm Springs acreage, bond ladders, and 100 in line. Do good quietly. Even a family long accustomed to comfort gasped at a fortune edging past 9 digits. The silent cowboy had aimed true one final time, leaving a legacy assured not in words but in unshakable resolve and careful plans.